Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Backstage in WWE, or for those of you who watched a good press conference today, Backstage in the XFL, because we don't cross promote either. I'm John Fisher, Brad Shepard alongside with me. What a news day, man. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, it's been a busy week.
Well, for you, I've been sitting pretty, while you have been sitting sweaty, tweeting all day. So let's just get right into it. Why don't we? Raw 25 was just a few days ago. I still am I'm getting heartburn just thinking about it. But I was very passionate about the show. We had Raw 25. We can get into the Royal Rumble coming up and the location for WrestleMania. We might be finding out very, very soon. And last but not least, what everyone has been talking about today, even Dan Rovell of ESPN.com, the XFL returning in the year 2020. How about that Dan Rovell? What a guy, huh? Hello, Dan.
Yeah, Dan's quite the guy. Just leave it at that.
Did you write Vince's copy? Because I know you are not a fan of said ESPN journalist, but neither is Vince because he didn't even say his name right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not like he could hear. Vince heard what he wanted to hear, which I don't think anyone's surprised by that. So yeah, what a day! What a day it certainly was. So Raw 25, Bradley, I'm at a crossroads of opinion because I don't know what to think about the shows anymore. They had all the tools in the entire universe, for lack of a better word, to make that show as good as Raw 1000. Do you agree?
I completely agree. I mean, and you look at the rating success, it was the highest rated show they've done since April of 2014. So, this generated a lot of interest compared to their normal audience size. And this was really an opportunity to capitalize on that and, bring in some of those older viewers who maybe stopped watching. And I don't think they did that.
The Raw 25th, the Raw 25, the silver anniversary, got over 4 million viewers on average. Do you know the last time they got over 4 million viewers? That wasn't rhetorical. I was waiting for you to answer.
No, it's been a long time. I mean, like I just said, this is the highest rating in several years.
I think it's
It's
3 years.
almost 4 years.
The Raw after
Almost four.
SummerSlam. Yeah. The Raw after SummerSlam, I believe, in 2014, and you can quote me on that because and that was at the height of the Daniel Bryan. It was right after the height of Daniel Bryan, so they were promoting that side of World Wrestling Entertainment where you had Punk leave, okay, and you had to rebound from that. They luck into this Daniel Bryan phenomena that they were able to cross promote into so many different things. The Yes Chant went into sports stadiums, to colleges. The Michigan State picked it up. The Giants picked it up. He was doing jumbotron spots for sports teams that completely have never had anything to do with wrestling before. So Daniel Bryan, no wonder the ratings were so high. He just had the biggest Mania moment. I don't want to say since Andre. That's a huge comparison. But the top 5 between Rock and Stone Cold, Taker and Flair, Taker and Michaels, Daniel Bryan was able to capture that moment and bring in so many new people to the brand that previously weren't seen from for a while. So this Raw 25 rather, was the chance to keep that same audience but expand upon it, like you said. And they failed miserably. Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Newsletter said it was a huge disappointment. How do you defend that show? Except for Elias, where was the benefit in that? Because he's the only one that got it.
Yeah, I think the 2-venue idea just didn't work.
Disaster. The Manhattan Center disaster is what I call it, because it was a disaster.
Yeah, and there's some, behind the scenes, I guess, issues that they ran into unexpected. That's live TV, but
like, do you have any examples?
Jimmy Fallon was late, so they had to rewrite a bunch of the stuff because he was supposed to be in backstage skits, and instead he just like showed up in audience and basically
Yeah.
did nothing
For lack
because
of a
he was
better word,
late.
sure.
And the Enzo thing too, where he was accused of rape, and his lawyer denied that, and he was released by WWE. That all started to transpire late on Monday, and so Enzo was supposed to take the table spot from the Dudleys, not Heath Slater.
Oh.
So that part had to be rewritten as well. So there were some things unexpected that happened late into the evening that caused them to rewrite on the fly and change some things. That a segment was taken away from the Manhattan Center, and the Triple H. Actually, I think they had 3 televised segments at the Manhattan Center, and it was obviously getting really rowdy. I'm sure you've heard the audio or watched a video clip of it. But yeah, Triple H, he made a call over to Barclays to get some superstars to come over.
Yeah, the Miz came over, Seth Rollins came over.
Yeah. So he got transportation for him and brought him over.
So that wasn't planned.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, I props to Triple H for recognizing what could have been a riot. Those fans paid triple the money. You know what I mean?
Oh, they $800 front row seats
For 6 minutes of action total.
Yeah. I think the Matt Hardy match was about 4.5 minutes.
Yep.
And and I get Matt Hardy made a comment recently about introducing his character to the WWE audience, which is not just the obvious hardcore sort of smart fan. And he's right. You do have to introduce that. It's no different than what they should be doing as they promote new superstars from NXT to the main roster and kind of highlighting, their history before they debut them. But yeah, I think that's not really a solid explanation here because they're just not, they're just not doing anything that he's done successfully with the character. It's just a lot of laughing and kind of really silly, stupid stuff. And I just don't see how a 4.5 minute match with Bray Wyatt is like and where do they go from here now? Maybe this is a vehicle to turn him from woken into broken now that they have that right. He's woken, but now that he's woken, he's losing, he's broken. I don't know. I'm probably trying to justify something they've given no thought to. So I just don't see how, even if he was going to lose, how a 4.5 minute match was really beneficial to his character. They're not really
the audience
protecting that. Yeah.
So in the 3 hours, give or take 3:15, the Manhattan Center got an opening with Jerry and Jim that lasted all of 46 seconds. They had The Undertaker spew this rhetoric for 4 minutes and then leave without doing anything else. You had that BS match that meant nothing and did nothing for anybody. And then you had DX, X-Pac, Scott Hall, which what a cluster. I keep using that word disaster, but that it puts it so perfectly. The cut to commercial during his entrance. Are you kidding me?
I just thought cutting to commercial during Scott Hall's entrance was, that was pretty much all he could do. His entrance was like the big thing.
Yeah.
And they cut to a commercial during it. It was just kind of like really poorly managed from a production standpoint there. So yeah, I didn't get that one at all.
And then DX in the club. I mean, sure, Finn getting the rub from Triple H was like cool. But then the club and the Revival have a match? Why?
Well, I bet I told you what was going to happen. I mean, that was the Revival. They're gonna get beat up by the veterans. And then the Miz, of course, Triple H had the Miz come over, and then they, all the The COO and then the head writer of SmackDown beat him up too. So. Yeah, I just didn't get the and I think too with the Balor Club.
I
with
like
them
that.
doing the with them doing the but with them doing the Too Sweet thing, it's kind of like they're kind of like saying, well, yeah, you're basically just copying what we did. I don't know. It was just kind of it was fine, I guess.
Yeah, at least you can get behind that. You know,
I just don't think I don't think it was really productive to take a team like the Revival, who's a real talent, and they just returned from one of them being injured, and then you just kind of, do that. I just don't see the benefit. You've kind of really hurt them. It's more like, not Revival, but Dead on Arrival now.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe it's just I just don't. You don't do that to fans. You just don't. I don't care about logistics. You know what, dude? Live TV is live TV, and that's all hunky dory at the end of the day. Stuff's gonna happen. That's gonna shift the course of that show. But you're telling me that Titus Worldwide and Heath and Rhino are on the show and justify that by bringing out the Dudleys who retired. They were already but they weren't a surprise. They retired last year. I just didn't get it. I don't know who booked that show.
Yeah, did you hear Booker T bury Devon's weight?
Oh no, he did.
When they went for the "What's Up" headbutt off the top rope, and he mentioned that Devon had put on a few pounds. He'd better be careful.
Oh my god.
Oh boy, yeah, it was
a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, actually, did you know that King, when he said puppies, which I popped for a bit, it's just kind of like vintage, commentary. I guess that's why. But
I did too. Sure.
He actually got told in the headset not to say that.
Really?
Yeah. After he said it, they said, "Yeah, you need to not say that."
Does that surprise you at all?
No, it doesn't. And it's, why highlight it? It's like when they did the promo and Shawn Michaels is talking, and, I hate the goofy, self-depreciating Shawn Michaels stuff. I'm not a big fan of that. It just comes off so campy and bad to me. But
he is funny, though. I got to admit, the DX thing was funny.
He's talking. They're talking about these previous DX segments, and they keep reminding everybody, "Oh, we can't do that anymore." You're basically talking about how great it was, and then saying we can't do the great stuff anymore. Like, why would you even put that in a script? You're just reminding people that, it's not as good as it used to be. I don't see the logic in that.
What else do you want them to do? And let's not forget that the Royal Rumble, and we're recording this on a Thursday night, it's in 3 days, right? What in God's name did they do to make you want to watch the Royal Rumble? Aside from the Royal Rumble being the Royal Rumble, what'd they do? Right?
Yeah, not much. No, that's a great point. Yeah.
Nothing. The final segment, the main, was a BS encounter that had Kane get thrown away like, dirty laundry, and then Braun throw Brock around for 60 seconds and fade to black. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, I thought after the first hour, especially, this show just really took a fast dive off a cliff.
Did you like the Elias stuff, though? I thought he was the best part of the show. I don't see anything better.
Well, he's probably the best character on their TV right now.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, seriously, it's and they don't know how to use him. It's obvious, but yeah, I liked it. I mean, he got the Samoa Joe spot. Like Cena was supposed to have a little mini feud with Samoa Joe before his match with Undertaker, and as long as Taker could go,
and he's doing well with it.
And yeah, so they've kind of slid him into that spot, and of course he's doing well. I mean, the guy looks the part. He's okay in the ring, and he's got a good, entertaining character. So it's kind of what pro wrestling's about. So,
and he has the look too.
Yeah. So yeah, so I thought that was good. I thought the best segment by far was Austin and McMahon, and while Yeah, it may have been a replay of what we've seen, and there may, may have been a bit overkill in the stunners, but I mean, come on, it's like,
It was
that
fun.
it's fun, it's vintage, as Michael Cole would say, and yeah, I mean, it was the best part of the show to me.
I'll put that as like 2A. The
Well,
Miz and Roman Reigns had a good match.
they had a good, yeah. I'm not surprised by that at all. But why would you put Austin and McMahon as your first thing? You're taking your best part of the show and putting it right in the beginning.
Started off with a bang.
Yeah, you can only disappoint from there, when you do that. And I just, again, I don't see the logic in that.
Where was Kevin Owens? I mean, I know you're not a fan of him, but he was a staple of Raw for almost a year. All you had Jericho do was a backstage. At least Cena was on, the freaking show in a decent way, so that was good. Who else did they miss? Daniel Bryan. He came out with the Raw general managers. That logically didn't make any sense. The Peep Show was a waste, and I love Christian, by the way. He didn't even ask a single question. So
all they did was create a promo segment, and they just put the Peep Show stuff up, and he didn't even ask a question. I mean, it was basically like, how can we get Christian on this show? Because Edge can't show up, and we have all of these, and this was their problem. We have all of these talents we've asked to come, and we've advertised. And by the way, Randy Orton wasn't invited. Lita wasn't invited. I mean, you could go down the list of key Raw staples for years that should have been on the show. I thought Hulk Hogan should have been on the show. Of course, they're still stuck on their, anti-Hogan stance because of those controversial and racist remarks he made.
Ric Flair did a stupid backstage with his daughter.
Yeah, which was just, it was, and they portrayed Charlotte to be a 7-foot tall giant. I mean, I don't know what they were. It was just, they gave it this camera angle that really buried Alexa Bliss. It was just, incredibly stupid, I thought. So
I would say the third best part of the show was when Brother Love showed up. I popped for that.
Yeah, I enjoyed Brother Love growing up. Sure. But the problem was, man, it's like I said, they've got all these veterans, and it was pretty much the least creative way possible to put all these people in the show. It's like, okay, let's put someone in a room, and then we just have veterans, legends that we all love, just keep like knocking on the door and walking in.
The poker game.
I mean, it's like the poker game. It was like, MVP came, and like, what was the point? He said like a couple of things and just sat there, and I just don't get it. I thought it was so lazy. It was so painted by the numbers.
DiBiase was okay.
It was just, there was nothing making this stand out as like a special 25th anniversary of Raw. And really, of course, it's 25 years of Raw, which really means 24 anniversaries, but we won't get into that debate. But yeah, I just don't, it felt like, nothing overly special for something that was supposed to be very special.
Why? And we'll table this for another time after this, but Raw 1000 between 2012 or 2013 to the beginning of 2018. The only thing that's different is, Brian Gewirtz is gone as head writer. He was the best writer they've ever had, so he's gone, and Vince is 5 years older. That's it. Raw 1000, the Punk turned heel on The Rock, like that in of itself was huge. And I know I'm a Punk, super fan, and I always will be. But that was a great feud that Punk started by doing that clothesline at the end of the show. Brilliant. I think Ziggler had a great spot in that show. I remember him really solid, have a solid impact. Cena obviously did. What could have possibly changed in 5 years to go from outstanding writing on a big show to just garbage, pure garbage?
Yeah, I don't know. Vince, after Russo left, he came up with the philosophy that it's better to have an entire team of writers rather than have one quit all of a sudden and then you have no backup plan. And so now he just has a whole team of writers of close to 30. And that way everybody's replaceable, and it's not just a single point of failure. If someone leaves or a couple people leave, it's like, who really cares?
Yeah.
Because at this point, they have so many writers that they're fighting each other to pitch ideas to get on TV. So it's, that is a terrible process. I think there's a lot of places for failure in that process and the way they're structured. So, that's something I think they always have to address. And of course, frankly, Vince himself, he's got the final say. He really is creative because he changes a lot of stuff, and he signs off on everything. So say what you want about the writers, and there's plenty to say, but ultimately you have to give some of that blame to Vince too, for sure.
Absolutely. And that won't change, I don't think, man. I just don't.
Let me ask you this: speaking of weird, creative, the Undertaker promo.
Was that a retirement or a prologue to Saturday Night Live? Because it was.
I just thought it was so weird. It was just kind of bad.
Call it stupid if you want. I thought it was. It didn't. It First of all, Taker beat Stone Cold all the time in the Attitude Era. So no, he didn't bury the Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I mean, you notice it because the Hogan thing, like he couldn't even mention Hulk Hogan's name.
Yeah.
Because he's beaten Hogan a couple times, and
he didn't mention Shawn Michaels.
It's just so weird.
What was that?
It was, I think it was meant to tease that he's retiring, but he's not. He's actually facing Cena. And they'll do an angle maybe at the Rumble or after, and so they'll end up having their match. But it was just kind of like forced and awkward. And honestly, Undertaker to me has never been a great promo. I think in some ways his gimmick has protected him a lot from that, but he's never been a great promo. And there was some rumors like, oh, he was thrown off by the venue. There's not a lot of people, or there's a bunch of like weird stuff out there, which it's just really stupid and not true. But I thought it's just not a great promo and just really kind of weird and confusing. It's like,
you're right. And it didn't accomplish.
The audience like didn't know how. Cool. We see the Undertaker, but what the hell is he talking about? What does this mean?
I gotta admit, he did look okay, physically.
Did you like his wig job there?
That wasn't his. I thought that was a shoot. I thought that was his real hair.
Yeah. No.
Oh, I thought he was growing his hair out.
No, he can't do that. Not anymore, anyway.
Well, you said the Rumble. Briefly, we have the Royal Rumble coming up this Sunday, and preceding that is NXT Philly on Saturday. General thoughts. We're going to see Roman Reigns win the Royal Rumble again. And moving past that, we will provide another top 10 Raw moment in WWE history when he gets booed out of the building once again.
Yeah, I think they'd be really foolish to do that. And I'm not sure they are going to do that. I mean, he's certainly one of the top favorites. I just think, man, he got booed out of the building last time in Philly. Like, that would be such a mistake. I don't know. It depends on how, which way they go with the title, like him and Brock. Are they going to, I think a lot of it is I mean, someone like Nakamura could win the Rumble, and, and then Roman Reigns gets to that place with Brock in a different way. It all depends on how they want to get there. So,
but how does Roman?
Certainly, he's a favorite. How
does Roman get a title shot? Does he just say? Does he proclaim one? I have a title shot, and is that it?
Well, I don't know. That's what they'll have that opportunity to tell that story. They'll have to find another way to get there. I just think it would be a mistake for him to win, but obviously he's one of the favorites. I think Cena's a favorite, although not necessarily going to win. I think Randy Orton will do really well. I think Baron Corbin will do well.
Of course.
He's an outside chance to win. I think.
So who also is an outside chance to win? Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler, both who have more than 10-1 odds to win the Royal Rumble match.
Yeah, I just don't see. I mean, Daniel Bryan has not been cleared. I haven't heard that he's been cleared anyway. I mean, this week. So
he's not going to be.
Unless there's some way. I mean, it is wacky pro wrestling. If they find a way where, like everybody's eliminated, The last two guys eliminate, and then number 30 comes out and it's Daniel Bryan, and he just walks in the ring and wins.
That's a heel move, though. You can't do that.
Well, he is a heel now. Haven't you been watching SmackDown? He's supposed to be a heel.
No, I haven't.
At least they're portraying him that way, but he's clearly not.
Do we
audience just doesn't
surprises, men and women? Ronda Rousey just said that she's not in the Rumble because she has not signed her deal at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I would take some of that with a grain of salt. I mean, whether she's going to appear or not, we don't know yet. I mean, it really is going to be kind of a 50-50 thing. It is possible she won't appear, but you cannot completely rule out that she won't appear at this point. There's certainly she'll be debuting soon. So
the Stephanie McMahon jump over the announcer table and enter the Rumble.
Well, we saw Jerry the King Lawler 1 year.
Yep, and Booker T.
2012, I think. Lawler was
Booker T. The 40-man Rumble. Booker T. Cole, GBL, Cole, Lawler. They all were.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just worried. It's like, I made a joke on Twitter, like, oh, when I saw that, at least she won't win the Rumble or whatever, or be in it. But then I, of course, realized I may have totally jinxed that situation if she pulls a Jerry Lawler / JBL / Booker T. So I don't know. She could get involved. It's like, this is a good example, in my opinion, of you've got WWE, the brand, as the draw, right?
Yeah.
Not just the individual superstars like the Hogans, the San Martinos, the Austin and Rocks. It's now the WWE brand, generally speaking, that's the draw. And they've positioned it that way intentionally.
Because no man is bigger than the company.
So that they're always stable if someone leaves, and they're not bigger than the company, right? So, but then you got, okay, so what is the WWE brand? The WWE brand is the McMahons. And so when you look at this women's revolution, there's one constant in it, and that's Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah,
she interjected herself in this completely from the very beginning. Positioned herself very strongly on TV, and she is the women's revolution. That's the reality.
And Triple H's NXT.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I think, they could be working, if Ronda's in it, they could be working Asuka Ronda. And then there's a lot of different things they can do.
And then a non-wrestler beats Asuka's undefeated streak because it's fake fighting, right? I guess it doesn't matter.
Oh, it's fake?
It's staged drama combat. If they were to, and I'll say this right now, if they were to have Ronda Rousey beat Asuka's undefeated streak that they have worked for and built for over 2.5 years, the main wrestling market, which are guys in their basements, I'm one of them. Sort of.
You're in your basement?
I'm in my bedroom, but close enough. I don't have a basement. The male audience who love wrestling will be so angry that, I mean, Vince and everyone on the board won't care, but people will be very upset if that happens. Ronda cannot win the Royal Rumble, and if she does, she has to lose to Asuka if she ever fights for the title. It cannot happen.
Yeah. I think if Ronda's in it, the more likely scenario would be where she almost wins, maybe like Asuka throws her out or something. Asuka ends up winning the title from Alexa Bliss, and then it's Rousey, and I think Rousey would beat her at Mania. But it all depends on when Ronda Rousey can start.
Yeah,
it truly does. So I don't know which way they're gonna go, and I guess that's exciting. So,
well, I'm sure that she's gonna start before WrestleMania 35. So we got the location for the Royal Rumble next year in 2019 for the very first time, and I found this super cool. Because my girlfriend and I are huge baseball fans, and I found this very interesting. Chase Field in Arizona, where the Diamondbacks play. That will be where the Rumble is held. I thought that was so cool. We'll get to see how logistics factor into it, but what a different... I thought it was a nice surprise. And then you have NXT that weekend will be in Phoenix, and the SmackDown and Raw after that.
Yeah, so WrestleMania 35, drum roll please.
Yep.
It will be held New York, New Jersey, and I am told it will be MetLife Stadium
Again.
again.
Is
Yeah,
that on the record?
it's not. WWE has not announced it. No,
Okay.
but I was told last year, and I actually tweeted it. This was before my this is before the XFL story broke. I had kind of made another throwaway tweet like, yeah, WrestleMania 35 is going to be here, and no one picked up on that, but I've actually had tweeted about that some time ago, well over a month ago. So yeah, I was told, yeah, New York, and I was told MetLife, and it's maybe they'll change it to Citi Field. I don't know. I mean, Citi Field is a beautiful stadium. I've
It is.
been there to watch a Mets game, and I mean, it's a really nice stadium.
Even Yankee Stadium, I think, is very nice. So if they want to confine it to a baseball stadium, Yankee Stadium's great. Citi Field's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. Barring an unexpected change, MetLife Stadium will host WrestleMania 35. That was on November 7th that I tweeted that.
Okay.
And you can find that if you search my tweets. Just put in WrestleMania 35 and my Twitter name, and they'll come up.
So that brings a problem, though, wasn't it? The WrestleMania 29, where they had the Rumble at MetLife, where the pillars were in the way and no one could see a damn thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've had that at quite a bit of the WrestleManias.
Well, they needed one of them because of a cage, right? The steel cage or Hell in a Cell. Yeah.
Yeah, but they also have all the lighting and everything up top. WrestleMania in Miami had the same issue, and some of the others as well. So I was at the one in Miami, and there were some unhappy people with their views were literally blocked. I couldn't imagine knowingly paying for a seat and you can't even see the match. So yeah. But yeah, that's what it is. I mean, maybe they'll change it. That was a long time ago, but I was told that that's where it's going to be again. So and I've heard some other locations mentioned, but no. WWE has intentioned. Their intention has been, for a little bit now to have it back there again.
So now that begs the question: does CM Punk come back for the WrestleMania 35 match?
Oh my god! Yeah, hey, I would love to see CM Punk come back. As you know, obviously we're both big CM Punk fans.
Sure.
As a professional wrestler. Yeah, I'd love to see him just get this, UFC loss out of his system.
And the next one is Dana White did go on the record and say that CM Punk will get another chance in the UFC.
Yeah. And look, it's what he wants to do, so I don't blame him. I think that's actually admirable. So
sure.
But, I think at the end of the day, he's doing what he wants, and, hopefully he'll come home because, man, I think the crowd is still really into him, and they could have done great business, and they still can in the right scenario. So I would really like to see it.
I always hate bringing it up because I get my hopes up every time.
But yeah, you can't. I mean, it's not happening. It's like,
no.
I even heard, some people, oh, yeah, I could CM Punk be in there. No, CM Punk is not going to the Royal Rumble.
Nope.
It's just not happening. So,
but
maybe one day.
You're right. Maybe one day. I mean, Goldberg went and did what he wanted for 10 years. Now he came back. He's a Hoffer. Yeah. All it took was 10 years of frustration and stubbornness. Yeah. And a yearning for more money. So, speaking of more money, let's talk about people who will get paid more to play better. And that's not the NFL. Because that's a farce, and we know it. Ask the Cleveland Browns. What happened today, it being January 25th? You know what, Brad, I will let you take the floor.
Well, I'll try and sound as modest as possible.
That's
real. I mean, that really is my intention. I'd reported quite a while ago, last year, actually, that the XFL would be returning essentially, and they would announce it on January 25th, which is today as we record this. So, yeah, I didn't think they gave it a lot of press ahead of time. I mean, when my story got out, of course, it created a lot of buzz. There was a lot of coverage, but as far as like Vince himself or his company, Alpha Entertainment, there wasn't a lot of, hey, we've got this big announcement coming up. It was like, okay, we have this announcement we're going to make in a few hours if you'd like to join us. So there wasn't a lot of, I thought, a lot of preparation into that, considering they knew how far in advance they were going to make this statement today as we record this. With that being said, yeah, he just announced the return of the XFL for 2020. 8 teams, 40-man rosters, and 2 semifinal matches and a championship game in the playoffs. He set out some information and answered some questions in a Q&A. Yeah, it's basically going to be fan-centric and innovation and a shorter, faster, family-friendly, easier to understand game. And so he actually even promised that the players would get paid more if they won. So that would be very interesting.
That could be a very huge hurdle for lawyers to get involved and agents if their players go to crappy teams and they don't want to get paid less. But if they would go to, let's say, the San Diego Thrashers, I'm making that up, they're winning, they could go there. I think it's going to be extremely convoluted, but that's just one side of the coin.
Yeah, and so they're not going to have franchises. It'll all be owned by the XFL. And, there's a couple key things I took out of this that I think everyone needs to understand that's really important when you look at the history. And that's, that they've given themselves 2 years to do this. The challenge with that, of course, is going to be keeping everyone's interest for 2 years. But it's a smart idea from a long-term business standpoint, because one of the big problems they had the first time with the XFL was a lack of preparation. And that lack of preparation showed in a lot of ways, and it led to another issue, which was having to field players that were subpar. And so, the play in the field was not very good a lot of times.
No, but
and with football, you have to have that. I mean, it's not like an entertainment TV show like in wrestling where you can have great skits and great promos and the matches could just be okay. I mean, the football is football, so you have to have a good product on the field, and they lack that. And part of the reason why is because they just didn't have time to fully prepare. So 2 big things out of that Vince realized, he recognized that they had to improve on. That was more time to prepare to launch the league, and the quality of play had to improve significantly. So very key areas there that he realized were failures before that they are changing this time.
How is he going to do that when he alienated most of the NFL? Whenever he said that not nobody with a criminal record, but he only wants good people to play. Let's not mince words here, and let's try to remain on the political correctness line. There are a good number, I'll say it very vaguely, of football players who've gotten in trouble with whatever, with like marijuana possession charges or a speeding ticket, anything. So you're going to try to tell me that you're going to get all these star players, Johnny Manziel, Colin Kaepernick, or Robert Griffin III, Tim Tebow, a few of those, one mainly, Johnny Manziel, has gotten into a lot of trouble, a lot of it in the public eye too. You're not going to sign those guys?
Oh, I think he'll give Manziel a chance if he wants it.
Of course he will.
I mean, Manziel's got a 2-year deal with the CFL. So by the time the XFL starts, it could be a possibility. I mean, it all depends on the rules. Look, Vince clearly didn't have a PR person, talk this over with him. I mean, at least not one that, has any experience whatsoever, because I don't think he worded some of that the best for a brand launch. And some of it, frankly, is so initial into the business plan that he really couldn't tell you what the exact rule is going to be for something like that. So yeah, it was kind of a tricky situation, but um, I think he's got to be real careful about that. Sure, if you get someone into the league and they start getting arrested, and that's in the rule book ahead of time, and they agree to that, then so be it.
Yeah,
Something like that is fine. But if a guy's coming in who's he's had a DUI arrest and he's had no issues for 2 years, I don't see why you wouldn't put him in the football league.
you're right.
We're not asking him to be someone's designated driver. We're asking him to play football, and if he gets in there and he makes the league look bad, I totally get that.
Yeah, I do too.
So, yeah, I think they'll have to iron that out. Some of that they're going to have to iron out and realize that maybe, the spirit of it is we don't want that kind of a thing, but there's got to be some specifics, surrounding that, or they're going to alienate a lot of people.
So how about some ideas? This is from a Pittsburgh sports personality, and he put these on Twitter, and I thought these are pretty interesting. So let me throw them your way. We'll do one at a time. No replay reviews.
That's very interesting. I like the reviews, but I don't necessarily like how they're handled in the NFL. I mean, why have a review when there's so many things you can't even review to begin with that you should be able to review?
You're right, but you're dealing with the human element of,
right.
Which baseball goes through that all the time.
Right.
Most of it inadvertent, but the NFL will take 8 minutes just to get a call right. I keep bringing her up because she's so smart at with sports. My girlfriend Carrie, we were watching a game a few months ago, and she's like, "Well, 30 seconds and that's it. If you can't make your mind up in 30 seconds, call stands on the field." And I think that's, if they were to do that with the XFL, they could really break some ground there.
Well, I think the NFL has a consistency problem with the rules.
Of course they do.
And
that's not going to go away.
Yeah, and I've talked about this before, but when you have pages of legalese to describe what a catch is, you've got a problem.
You don't know what a catch is at that point.
Right. Nobody knows what a catch is. It's like, or if it's not a catch, sometimes you think, well, that's really dumb because he kind of catches the ball, and that's like really it goes so overboard. Like all the things you have to do to make a catch is just kind of sometimes a little ridiculous. And, they just go overboard, and sometimes the flags, sometimes they call a lot of flags, a lot of penalties. Sometimes they don't. And, sometimes it's like every other play they're throwing the flag. There's just not a lot of consistency. And, I think the rule management aspect of the NFL is it's executed really poorly. And so that's something that Vince can capitalize on. And I think the first time he tried to do that, one of his things was, less penalties. And he kind of highlighted that in the video package that they showed for the new XFL.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll be one thing too, is you got to have the rules per se. This, can't be every man for himself, barbarian Roman Coliseum. You want to protect the players and you want to have common sense rules, but common sense rules isn't necessarily, nobody knows what a catch is because the rule book's so complicated.
Okay. So on to the next point. No defenseless wide receiver penalties.
That's another great idea. And by the way, I hope that people actually are submitting these. Like, definitely submit these.
Yeah.
They say they're going to listen. Who knows? But yeah, we definitely need to do it. This is like the one opportunity to try and influence the game. So
I agree.
Might as well. What do you think about that one?
You still got to protect player safety, and I still think that's number one in importance. And that, I mean, if you don't have any players, you can't play the game. You can't have them all getting blindsided,
Right.
by a dirty hit. But sometimes you can't help it, like the hit on Gronkowski in the AFC title game. I know a lot of people think differently, but Richard Sherman, one of the best cornerbacks of our time, said, "What is the receiver supposed to do if you're at that size disadvantage? and you want to try to knock the ball out. I mean, I don't think he could have went for his head, but I don't
I
think
mean, you can't really, you either try and do what he did, or you take out his knees, or you
yes.
just try a middle of the body tackle, which of course, you're not going to tackle Gronk like that is the
No.
problem.
No.
So
So I think the NFL needs to sit down and figure out how to minimize that, but the XFL could capitalize on that. Okay, so this one right here. This idea I think is the most is I think it's outstanding,
mhm.
and a lot of purists in football will not like this idea. This one is that college football players are eligible to leave and go to the XFL after their freshman season.
Oh, that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you talk about, that's a great way um, to give college players some experience, and even if it's not a direct competition to the NFL, it's almost kind of even has potential for a feeder system. They get some XFL experience and then go to the NFL. I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting concept.
So let's talk about the timeline now. You have Saquon Barkley, okay? Let's just pretend he was a freshman. He was the best pure skill athlete in all of college football this past year with Penn State. Barkley, after his freshman year, broke all the records, Heisman voting, everything, anything you can imagine, won the Doak Walker Trophy. After 1 year, he's like, you know what? If I can go make a couple $1 million now, and I still want to go to the NFL, why can't? So your college season ends in January, beginning of January. You have a whole month to rest up a couple weeks, get your legs going, jump right into the XFL season mid-February. I don't see a problem with that. Or even so, they can jump in, for the start of the following season, and that gives you a whole year to rest your body. And if you want to get a degree, you can. You can take online courses. You can still get a college degree doing that same way. But that way, especially for skill players that worry about health as much as like a running back should, their shelf life is so small as it is, they can get so many more years of football because that punishment diminishes immediately, and the risk for knee injuries, career-threatening injuries, are such lower.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It almost kind of leads back to like the XFL being a feeder system of the NFL. I think that would be a natural tendency if that
Yep.
idea is executed. I mean, you look at college basketball in a lot of ways. A lot of programs like Kentucky are, really just NBA feeder systems.
Yep.
I mean,
And
they
Duke
do a
now.
year, and Duke now too. They do a year and then they leave, like Kyrie Irving and Duke did, and many others at Kentucky. So yeah, it's very interesting. I'm not like opposed to the idea. I think it's very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about this one? And we kind of already touched on this. Sign Kaepernick, Tebow, Manziel. Those three names.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I think, and again, we talked about this before, and, I talked about this in my interview with Peter Schwartz from CBS Sports, who was the announcer for the New York, New Jersey Hitmen in 2001. But yeah, I think whether you like them or you don't, those personalities, those athletes are going to draw attention. They're going to put eyes on the product, and people are going to want to watch, whether it's to cheer or to boo. And in a lot of cases, frankly, your haters are your most loyal supporters. Because they watch everything you do to just kind of bitch about it. So, I mean, I think it'll be very interesting. I think what they have to do is sign some big name players, and how they're going to be creative with that and compete, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's more likely with guys like that who aren't playing in the NFL, and so they have a good shot there. But trying to lure away a big player or two from the NFL would be tricky. Now, the interesting thing in all of this is the collective bargaining agreement with the NFL that after the 2020 season ends, their labor deal. So it'll be very interesting to see, what happens there. Are they going to, try and pull the XFL leverage, if they don't get a better deal?
Well, if they're smart, they would. I don't care if they're a startup or not. They're football, and that agreement will have to be signed. There has to be a deadline right before the season starts in 2020 to say, okay, if we don't sign this deal, we're going to walk. That's a definite possibility. Big time. So we'll have to look out for that. Now, the last one, I think is kind of like a, too bad, so sad kind of idea, but I think this could this could give you a coast to coast interest. Put teams in Oakland and San Diego.
I think what they need to do, and I talked about this a lot on some of my appearances with like Fox Sports Radio and ESPN Radio back in December. They've got to go into major markets where there isn't an NFL team necessarily in some of these markets. And I'm not saying they can't go into some markets where there's NFL teams at all by any stretch of the imagination. I just think there's a lot of NFL fans in places where they don't have NFL teams. And that's why I think initially it was so popular in Las Vegas when they had a team for the XFL.
Well,
and
now
of course,
team though.
Right. Now they're getting an NFL team. Why? Well, I mean, you look at the XFL, they brought in a team. There's a market for it. And so that's what the NFL is going to do. But I think they need some markets, some major markets where there is no NFL teams. And if they have some major markets like, the New York, New Jersey market, the California market where there is NFL teams, I think that's okay because there's enough people, it doesn't matter.
But capitalizing on Oakland and San Diego, who I know that they weren't the greatest teams. They've won Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Well, San Diego's been close. Oakland has won Super Bowls. San Diego.
I like the Oakland idea for sure.
San Diego, why not? They have the Padres there. Golden State's close. I mean,
yeah,
you can cross promote into different sports. It doesn't have to be just football.
Yeah. Plus, Ron Burgundy could be their announcer.
Yes, he could.
Welcome to San Diego. No, it'll be very interesting, though. I think the other thing that he really has learned from the first time that, again, I've talked about, and at the risk of sounding repetitive, he really learned the lesson of not, mixing the WWE and the XFL product, it sounds like this time. And when I say that, I mean specifically to, things like having them on the announce team and whatnot. We know they're going to be part of the XFL itself, even though he says they'll be separate. And I've talked about that again. That I talked about when I first broke the story on the Wrestling Estate podcast with Team Left Jab. And basically, I was told when I got the story that even though legally everything would be separate, that WWE and the resources of WWE would be very involved behind the scenes off camera to make this work. And it was the same thing I was told for Linda's Senate run as well. So that's going to be the case here. And I think we've already noticed the cross promotion between WWE, even today alone, and the XFL, Alpha Entertainment. And so they're going to say it's a separate entity. And, that's a smart idea for legal reasons, financials and, a publicly traded company. And there's, although the stock actually went up a very significant amount.
It did.
With the announcement. But legally, the right move to have it separate on paper. But I can tell you the reality for sure is very much WWE involvement behind the scenes. So, yeah, but I think he's learning the lesson there, and he had some good staff last time, some NFL experienced guys, but he's got to take out the wacky wrestling element or this is never going to work to anybody but a WWE audience.
Yeah, because nobody cares about wrestling that only cares about football, right?
Yeah, and I mean, frankly, wrestling's a lot less popular in mainstream than it used to be. So you're probably even talking about a smaller audience if it was wrestling only today than before. So it's got to be mainstream. It's got to be football focused.
Yeah,
I think Vince is very smart to keep the talent and keep himself off of camera.
Nope, I 100% agree with that. I do. Now, anything else you want to touch on about the XFL? I mean, we covered most of it. I think that it's I I want to see what it does in the first year. I do. I want to see who their TV rights are going to be handled through because they cannot air on CBS, ABC, NBC, or Fox. Who else is left? Spike TV, um, TNT, TBS. Who's going to buy in? It can't be NBC.
Well, Vince has got options. I mean, he knows what he's doing in that. The TV deal is going to, the XFL starts 2020. His TV deal's up in 2019 with USA. I mean, this sounds like a package deal situation to me.
Yeah,
Just kind of similar to the first time, but now he's got even more options. He's got Facebook live streaming. He's got his own network, which is enormous. Maybe he tries to get them to pick up a game a week or a couple of games to lure people into the network. You never know. I mean, he's got more options to get people to watch than ever before. So in that regard, there probably is no better time. So it should be very interesting to see what he's able to do there, because it doesn't sound like he's really into any talks to do anything serious in that yet. But obviously that's going to be coming up very soon. It's going to be a very interesting year.
Don't forget
for Vince and WWE. So yeah, that should be interesting. I got a kick out of. Did you hear the question from, was it Justin Barrasso from Sports Illustrated?
Well, no, he's a dummy, but go ahead.
I mean, that was really just. I thought anyway, it was kind of an embarrassing.
What did he ask?
Well, he's just to me, and look, this seemed to be. I'll be careful what I say, but the questions that were asked, seemed to be the people asking the questions seemed to be a select group. I'll put it that way, and so I think we had some journalists who, in too many cases, were either trying to kiss Vince's butt. Or you had the ones who were just like very focused on the political motives. Like, the kneeling and they've got to stand and blah, blah, blah. And Vince is partially responsible for that. But, it's just, it's such a political climate with the kneeling controversy in the NFL. And it's become a big topic with the news of his XFL launch already. Across media. So there's a lot of focus on that, I thought, unnecessarily. And, then just like the butt kissing, like, you're so wonderful. And, everything you've done is so great. And it was just kind of like ridiculous, over the top. But the funny thing that he had asked was if he seeked out Linda McMahon's input before making the decision to launch the XFL again. And the look on Vince's face, and he's just like, no. He's kind of thinking like, what are you, stupid? I mean, it was priceless. So anyway, I just kind of popped for that. But I thought the Q&A, like, they didn't ask. There's so many questions they could have asked, and like I said, so much of it was just like basic questions that I already talked about, a month and a half ago, or it was just like political stuff or whatever. It's just not a lot of value to a lot of the questions. Like the fantasy aspect would have been a lot of fun. Like, talking about the fantasy football, they promoted that in their video. Well, what kind of fantasy football are they talking about doing? Are they creating their own fantasy football platform like Yahoo has and like NFL has? Mm-hmm. What are they doing with that? So I thought that was a missed opportunity. And I got asked, hey, why announce it today? Why the 25th? And I don't know that they were given a reason per se. I mean, I know they were in New York and that's where they announced it the first time, but this was a streaming thing. So I don't know that that was even significant. I think they wanted to have some attention. They got the Rumble coming up and they just had the big Raw 25th anniversary, and they want to get it out there so they can start preparing and have a good 2 years to get this ready. But that's really about it.
Well, and we're certainly going to see what happens coming up, and certainly in the next few months. By the end of 2018, we'll be a year away, a year and 2 months away from the debut. So I think it'll be exciting to see where it goes, what develops, and how the storyline goes from there.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I really, truly am. And I look forward to covering it. And if you're listening and you haven't been able to check out my interview yet with Peter Schwartz, who I mentioned earlier from CBS Sports that worked for the XFL as an announcer, check that out, neosportsinsiders.com. And you can just search Peter's name in the XFL and it'll come up. And it was a really fascinating interview about his time in the XFL. Definitely worth checking out.
So I have one more thing before we sign off. And Brad, I have not told you about this yet, even though I told this person that I did tell you about it. I lied because I like to keep things fresh and juicy around here. So as soon as Brad and I were talking about revitalizing the podcast, I got a message from an old friend, someone who has a very strong disdain for Hulk Hogan. And he says, "Hey,
well, can I just say, John, I don't know who this is, but he could have some terrible wrestling opinions, I'm sensing."
He says, "Hey, and I also work with this human being, and he's like, hey, I saw you, revitalizing the podcast a little bit." I said, yeah, we are. Brad had a lot of interests. I shared that same interest. He said, well, what do you think? And he looked at me. I looked at him, and I personally wanted to get the consistency of our program down before we decided to put this piece into full swing. Brad, can you take a guess on what I'm about to do?
It sounds like it's going to be old Dino.
He is back and better than ever. But just like Eric Bischoff, he'll just leave again. I'm kidding. I couldn't help myself. So I wanted to save it till the end. Normally, Dean, while he has knowledge of many, many things in many, many areas, he's going to focus on wrestling. Even though he could do sports, he could do anything.
Okay, can we stop putting over your girlfriend and get to the point?
We're gonna get Dean's thoughts on Raw 25. This is Dean. I am Petro from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Good friend of mine, wrestling fan for over 30 years, longer than Brad has even been born, which is a long time.
That's totally not true.
It might be. And you know what? Today is his birthday. So, Brad, wish him a belated happy birthday, because this will be coming out the day after.
Happy birthday to Dean, a dear friend, and the biggest Hulk Hogan fan that I know.
Me too. Here he is. His thoughts on Raw 25.
The Raw 25 anniversary was basically a nostalgia trip and was not sufficiently produced or used to further any angles like they could have. And there's even a few special moments maybe that they passed up that they could have otherwise had. For example, the Matt Hardy Bray Wyatt match, clean with Bray going over. What? Why didn't they use this just to further the angle, to build the interest to Royal Rumble? This is one case in time where actually I would have liked to have seen something different. Maybe the debut of Matt Hardy's wife somewhere to cause some sort of mind game. And you can have a schmaz at the end and it would still be okay. Missed opportunities. You've got old-time divas, okay, on the stage, where was Lita, by the way, and you still have like 12 spots that need to be filled in the Women's Royal Rumble. You couldn't have had Mickie James come out and maybe verbally taunt somebody into, maybe goad somebody into participating into the Royal Rumble. You couldn't have had the two biggest ass kickers in the bar interacting in the poker game with the APA and make that into something. You couldn't have had the whole thing end instead of giving us an awful match. You couldn't have had maybe IRS come and take the winnings away from Heath Slater at the poker table to give you kind of a funny throwback moment. The bottom line is, Raw 25 was a microcosm of the problem across all of WWE, and that is poor writing and poor execution. And when it comes down to it, the writers actually probably aren't to blame because we've heard there were many changes at the last minute again. For goodness sake, you guys are producing a television program, and you don't have like a TV operation to worry about breaking news most of the time. Produce your show, believe in your show, then give the talent the opportunity to succeed. That's the bottom line. Because I said so.
Well. Brother. I think he highlighted really everything that we said.
Yeah.
He told me he was going to insult you or insult Hulk Hogan and screw with you or say something about Baron Corbin, but he didn't.
That's because he secretly loves them. At least that's my theory.
How often are you right? Let's be honest.
Probably 100% of the time. Just a rough estimate.
Well, anyway, that'll do it for the program here. Brad, where can all of the fine folks at home find you on Twitter? Because you have not told us enough times.
Yeah, sure. Follow me on Twitter at @VBradShepard, SHEPARD. You can follow my work at vbradshepard.com. And I'm actually going to be writing now for bodyslam.net. So make sure to check that site out. And, whether it's a good idea or not, they've given me creative liberties to do what I want. So that could be very interesting.
You know what happened the last time one of us got creative liberties? Bleacher Report gave me creative control on my articles and their Twitter account. I ended up quitting, but I hope it doesn't happen to you.
Gee, thanks. That's a real buzzkill. But
You're welcome.
Yeah, so that's it. Just follow me on Twitter at @VBradShepard, vbradshepard.com, bodyslam.net, neosportsinsiders.com. And probably other places in the future as well. And so, yeah, just check me out there.
Don't tell people to check you out. That's inappropriate. Yeah,
that's right. You're right. I should rephrase that.
You should. You can all follow me on John Fisher TV on Twitter, Wrestling News Hub on Facebook, Thoughts from the Bench on Facebook. And I think that's it. I think we covered everything. Is there anything you want to say real quick before we end the program?
Yeah, go Patriots.
Oh, my God. Go XFL, because I'm not even rooting for any team in the Super Bowl because it doesn't exist. You know what? Go Justin Timberlake. I hope Janet Jackson shows up. We will see you all next week. And watch the Pro Bowl. They deserve it. We'll see you next week.